The most current CPI figures were recently released and they confirmed the general transfer balance cap will increase from $1.9 million to $2 million come 1 July 2025. Mark Ellem from Accurium is here to discuss what this will mean for SMSFs. Hi, Mark. How are you going? It's great to see you.
Thanks, Darren. Yes, great to see you. Great to be here to talk to you about this. Nice to see that we've got another change happening for us this year.
Yeah, nothing ever stays nothing ever stays the same in the world that we live in anyway. So whenever there's indexation, and obviously it's going up because there's another round of indexation that's going to be applied to the general transfer balance cap. But let's start with that, because whenever we talk about indexation, it's really important to note that there is a difference between the general transfer balance cap and people's personal transfer balance cap, isn't there? Can you shed a little bit of light on that concept, Mark?
Now, that's a good point that you make there, Darren. We know that the general transfer balance cap will index on 1 July 2025, and this will actually be the third time that it's indexed since its introduction way back on 1 July 2017. Geez, doesn't time fly when you're having fun? So we've had two indexations. We've got another one happening from, as you said, 1.9 to $2 million on 1 July 2025. But as with the previous two increases, not everyone's going to be entitled to that $100,000 uplift to their personal transfer balance cap. So that's one new term that we've had introduced since the first indexation, the difference between the general transfer balance cap and the personal transfer balance cap. So in relation to this upcoming indexation, there's going to be three categories. First are those who their highest balance in their transfer balance account prior to indexation equaled their personal transfer balance cap. Now, they will not be entitled to any increase in their personal transfer balance cap. They've previously utilised it, so they get none of the $100,000 on 1 July 2025. The second category will be those who had a transfer balance account, but their highest transfer balance account balance was less than their personal transfer balance cap. So they didn't use all of their transfer balance cap. Now, they will be entitled to a proportional increase to their personal transfer balance cap. So I'll get a percentage of that $100,000 indexation. And then the last category are those that have no transfer balance account prior to indexation. Basically, those who have never commenced a retirement phase pension prior to 1 July 2025, and they will be entitled to the full increase. They'll get to utilise the full $2 million if they start a retirement phase pension from 1 July 2025.
Yep, it's all about proportionality, isn't it? So people need to keep that into account, or take that into account. But when we talk about the transfer balance cap, be it general or personal, we generally tend to just link it straight to a pension sort of situation. So what do SMSF members have to look at with this change from a pension perspective?
Well, if we start off again with the fact the transfer balance cap, why it was introduced, and it was introduced to limit the amount a person could transfer into a retirement phase income stream, basically a pension. Now, the ATO keeps a record of how much of a person's transfer balance cap has been used and whether they've exceeded their personal transfer balance cap. Now, they do this with the help of funds who are required to report transfer balance account events. For example, commencing a pension or pension commutations. Now, of course, it's generally not the fund that does this reporting. It's the fund's accountant or administrator who reports the TBA event information to the ATO. Now, it's also the ATO that will calculate the individual's entitlement to indexation of the general transfer balance cap, whether their personal transfer balance cap will be increased. But this is based on the TBA events that have been reported to them, by the fund's accountant or administrator. So for the ATO to correctly calculate a person's entitlement to the $100,000 increase to the general transfer balance cap on 1 July 2025, and for that person to be able to see the amount of the transfer balance cap space that they have available, it's important that all the reportable transfer balance account events are reported and reported correctly to the ATO. Now, for those who are contemplating commencing their first retirement phase pension, like an account-based pension, between now and 1 July 2025, deciding whether to commence before or after will depend on many factors and their own circumstances and needs. Now, one of these factors will be ECPI, exempt current pension income. You know, I love to talk about ECPI, Darren. Now, delaying starting the pension until after 30 June 2025, so they get to apply the $2 million transfer balance cap instead of the current 1.9, will mean the fund won't be able to claim ECPI in respect of that pension until the 25-26 financial year. Now, which is the better outcome? The answer, Darren?
It depends.
Thank you. Yep, it depends. So SMSF members should be talking to their advisors, but as they may not be aware of the upcoming indexation of the general transfer balance cap and what it actually means for them, advisors should be letting them know about this increase and how it affects them, particularly if they're talking about retirement. So a bit of an information and education campaign for advisors to get out to their client base, because they could be thinking about retiring soon, but they may not have conveyed that to their advisor. So if they have that education, that information, it can trigger that with them, and they can then get on the phone, email, online meetings with their advisor to talk about, well, what does this mean for me? What should I do?
Yep, very, very prudent suggestion about how people should deal with this in the lead up to 1 July 2025. Now, we just spoke about pensions, but as is with a lot of things in the superannuation system, there's intertwining between certain thresholds and how they interact and what it means. So this change actually has implications for non-concessional contribution strategies as well, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. You know, at first we think, well, what effect? As the change to the transfer balance cap is not a change to the contribution caps, but the non-concessional contribution cap, that's subject to a person's total super balance at the prior 30 June. Now, to have access to the standard non-concessional cap, their prior 30 June total super balance needs to be below the general transfer balance cap that applies for that financial year. There's the link. So, for example, to be entitled to the $120,000 non-concessional cap for the current 24-25 financial year, a person's 30 June 2024 total super balance has to be below 1.9 million. However, with the general transfer balance cap increasing to 2 million on 1 July, for the 25-26 financial year, their 30 June 25 total super balance only needs to be below $2 million. So this could not only affect whether or not they have a non-concessional cap for either this current financial year or the next one, it may also influence whether or not they make a non-concessional contribution this current financial year or the amount, or whether they delay until the next financial year. Again, should be talking to their advisors about these strategies.
Yeah, really, really important when it comes to contribution strategies, because this is a perfect time to review them. Now, if we're talking about non-concessional contributions and contributions caps, does it have implications for the bring forward rule? Everybody loves to talk about the bring forward rule because it is a very powerful thing to be able to do that. But does this change have implications for that too?
Yes, it does. Again, because it relates to non-concessional contributions, and as I just talked about, non-concessional contribution cap is subject to prior 30 June total super balance. So with the bring forward rule, there are total super balanced thresholds. Now, we talk about the bring forward rule, the 3 years, but it may not be 3 years. It may only be 2 years. It depends on your prior 30 June total super balance. Now, the way the law is written, and you know me, Darren, I love to investigate how law is written, but the way the law is written, these thresholds will change whenever there is indexation of the general transfer balance cap or indexation of the concessional contribution cap. Now, if the concessional contribution cap is indexed, then effectively the non-concessional cap will increase because it's a 4 times multiple of the concessional cap. Now, we saw that from the 22-23 into the 23-24 financial year, when the general transfer balance cap increased by 200,000 from 1.7 to 1.9. Now, the lower super balance threshold to get you to be able to utilize the full 3-year rule, that increased from 1.48 million to 1.68 million. So effectively, you could have more total super balance at the prior 30 June and still use the full bring forward rule. Now, with indexation of the concessional cap and the increase to the non-concessional cap in 24-25, that lower threshold has decreased from 1.68 million to 1.66 million. With the general transfer balance cap increasing to 2 million on 1 July 2025, the lower threshold will once again increase by 100,000 to 1.76 million. So members and advisors need to remain vigilant when putting in place contribution strategies, as the way the law is written, the bring forward thresholds are moving feasts. They will change whenever there is an indexation to the general transfer balance cap or the concessional contribution cap.
That's amazing, Mark. More volatility than the markets actually go through by the sounds of things. But look, thanks for sharing those insights with us today.
My pleasure.
Mark will be examining this subject further at the SMSF Professionals Day 2025, co-hosted by Self-Managed Super and Accurium. It's a 3-day roadshow event kicking off in Sydney on the 22nd of May and concluding in Brisbane on the 29th of May, and also be an online component. To find out more about the event and register, please reference the details you can see on your screen right now. Well, it was great chatting to you today, Mark, and I can't wait to hear your presentation at the SMSF Professionals Day.
Thank you very much, Darren. There will be lots to cover, and I'm sure there's stuff to cover that we're not even aware about at the moment with what's we're expecting to happen between now and then. It'll be a very interesting period and lead up to that first session.